Don't call her cute, don't call her feisty. She's a rebel, she is nasty, she is brave. She isn't honey, sweetie, sugar pie, or baby. And don't you ever say that she was well behaved. Don't you ever say that she was well behaved. And don't you ever say that she was well behaved.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but it's like in that Lori Kilmartin New York Times op-ed where she talked about the look back on the Dana Carvey show, and she's like, look, like all of those men are great. There's not a dud in the bunch, but you can't help but notice that there are also no women on that thing. And it's like, so imagine the women who deserve to be there who didn't get it.
What does deserve mean?
They're just as funny, just as good.
And would have
maybe
made the
more
show
funny,
better
maybe more good.
because they have a different perspective.
Point of view.
But like that doesn't get rewarded.
Yeah.
Or it didn't. And things are changing because like
It's still not great, but
they're changing because we're speaking out about it.
yeah.
And like telling our experiences.
And we're like, oh, we're all angry. Maybe there's a reason we're all angry. Like maybe it's because shit is fucking rigged. Like, I don't know.
So,
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
It's okay.
No, I
we should
mean,
probably
I
get
think it's
started.
Good conversation.
It is
to
a good
have.
conversation to have.
Even though
And I can't have it with Louis because I feel sad.
It makes you feel better. We get angry, argue. It's
I
not
know.
like
And-
we see things the same way.
Right.
I know. This is making me feel better.
And we do try to actively like
We just try not to make it personal. I think.
Yeah.
It's hard for me not to feel personal about it because
Yeah.
it feels so
we
like
have a safe word when we
that's smart.
talk about
I should
this
do
stuff.
that.
I mean, we did for this last conversation, and I think it's a good idea
If you're
because
on
it.
the side of the victim, it's harder to not make it personal.
Right, because it feels that's what that's the thing is I kept
saying.
saying to him, I was like, this is really upsetting to me because it feels like if something like this happened to me and I didn't respond the way you think I should
Yes.
have, you would blame me. And I know that that's not true because if it was me, he would be so mad.
And
But that's the problem too.
Right.
There's something that Dan Savage used to call an empathy gap, where conservative politicians so often will be against something until someone they know or themselves have it happen to them.
because
So
that did kind of happen to you when I was on stage. I'm not gonna like say names in case we keep this in, and it's fine if we do keep it in.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
when
won't
that thing
keep
happened
the-
to me on stage, when those guys created a rape fantasy about me, sitting from the judges table as I was on stage, and I froze up. I did not say anything back to them.
well,
I
you
also did
you
not
could see in
leave.
your eyes that something was not
And
right.
You, Shaki, were horrified, and you held me when I cried, and you told me that was fucked up, and you were there for me when I said, like, I don't ever want to do this again. And yet, when these women who were in Louis C.K.'s hotel room didn't react didn't fight, and they didn't run away, they froze.
I also wanted to say something, but knew
Yeah, I know, and you.
professionally
No,
that
I
wouldn't
know.
have been okay
To be
for
fair,
you.
yes, you wanted to say something, and I do appreciate that you didn't, because it's like, oh, what, you get your boyfriend.
You
to fight
realize
your
the
battles for you?
implications, yeah.
But what infuriates me is the other men who were there, who said afterwards how messed up that was, and didn't say anything at the
during.
time. The only person who did was Sherrod. And I have thanked him so many times. And his
Yeah.
response was, we only have each other, and we have to have each other's back. And I think there's something to be said for, like, a black man seeing this happen, recognizing who is in power, like, recognizing those power dynamics, and recognizing that he
And
has
trying
the
to,
power
like,
to say
interrupt
something
it,
because
yeah.
those are his friends. So, like, I will also give, like, the benefit of the doubt to the guys who didn't say anything, because I know, like, they're my peers. And the judges who were talking to me
We're
were
a little more
quote,
above.
quote, above them.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, and I think that's why it's difficult to talk about this for me without feeling like personal about it, because so much of this. Hell yeah, you got that
I
fruit
got that
fly.
mosquito.
Oh,
It's a
mosquito? Ew.
Yeah.
Thank you. So much of it just feels like it's like so close to having happened to me, and if it did happen to me, I know that I would be judged based on the way I respond, which is like, as opposed to why isn't it like, who gives a shit how they responded? It matters what he did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't.
Yes.
They could have fucking done the tango. I don't give a shit what the victims did. Like, they should never have been in that position that they needed to do anything.
Because you know what they didn't do is say, yes, this is okay.
Yeah.
And that's really all that matters, is that they did not say, yes, I am into this.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you and Louis were fighting about this, and then you said, well, he did this to me. Did you know that? His perspective.
Well, I know. Well, he knows that. I mean, I would have brought that up by now.
That was the analogy I gave to you, was like, okay, let's say I get a writing job for a talk show, and this talk show host calls me into his office after office hours and says, is it okay if I masturbate in front of you? Like, if I came home and told you that, you would be like, that's so fucked up. And it's like, it's just like, and I understand.
And that's something that just feel like it could so happen.
Yeah,
like, that's just like
that's
so, but that doesn't, that seems so, even after all of this, like, that's what's so crazy. It's like, even after all of this, it still feels like, yeah, because if that person's even like middle, like if that person's not that successful, who's gonna, then you're just two people who aren't that successful, like arguing, and no one's gonna give a shit. It's like, the whole thing is just so fucked up. And that kind of shit is still happening right now. It's happening to someone, whether it's not, maybe it's not in the entertainment industry, but it's in all these other, fucking things where sorry, words. It's like it's more likely to happen to like low income women of color, trans women, fucking everything. You know, it's like these people who have like such less of a voice than like, you know, white female comics, and like even with all that privilege, no one's gonna fucking believe you. So like the whole thing, it's like.
Right, there is a reason why Louis C.K. had to come out and
before
address
everyone
the
believed it,
allegations, and R. Kelly hasn't. Like, there's a reason. It's because, like, look at the victims. It's white women, and like our society has a tendency to care more about white women than black women, and like that's fucked up. That's super.
It's a
fucked
whole nother
up.
level.
Black people and white people have a tendency.
Yeah.
The
all
whole
society. I mean, like,
of
Jim
American
Crow
society
existed, and the justification for it
to
was
protect
to
white
protect
women.
Yeah. Which, speaking of which, you're listening to the Well-Behaved podcast.
This is small. I don't know how much of that I'm going to keep in. They may start at this point.
I kind of want you to
I'll
keep
cut it
in.
after the shit talking that Dan did.
I just said everything.
Yeah.
I'll take that out. I don't want that kind of drama.
I do want you to keep most of that in.
Okay, I'll keep most of it
And
in.
like, I mean, if you're listening, like,
Or I could
keep in
just
mind
cut
you-
that. I'll listen to it again and
Okay.
then cut the
Listen to it
drama.
and see what makes sense. But like,
I mean, you recorded me without my consent.
Oh,
they can't hear you anyway because you're not on mic.
I'll only start once you knew we were recording. That sounds
awesome.
good.
I mean, it's so yeah. Keep in mind, like, if you're listening, you did not get to hear Shaki's commentary, which is a little unfair. I mean,
Yeah.
Right
it's,
with it.
I hopefully you can extrapolate. And
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the Well-Behaved podcast, the
Oh,
podcast
man.
about obscure women in history, and
Wow.
also obscure women now who are fucking finding their voices and
Yes.
speaking out.
Wow. Oh wait, let me put the headphones in.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know you were recording.
No, I know,
Oh,
it's fine.
wow.
It's fine. I'm Ariel.
Anyway,
Elias.
I'm Molly Ruben-Long. How are you doing outside of this week being so here? They're very
Outside of
tangly.
my Rage. About
Yeah.
Chauvinist pillar.
Okay. Bye. Have fun with the dudes before you all burn.
Before you go down in Philly.
I know.
He's gone, so what's the point?
Get that new couch first.
Oh yeah. We're gonna do couch.
We're gonna need a velvet couch for the revolution.
I know, it's so funny to this dichotomy that exists in my life of like, I'm a strong, independent woman. Also, Shaki, thank you so much for buying us a new couch because you can afford it and I can't, and I intend to reap the benefits of that and feel guilty about it. But also,
You might have to wear the headphones because it's so close to you.
Fine.
Yeah,
how are
I
you?
know. I'm good. I tried to do no social media, no podcast, no TV this week because it's part of the artist way, but I didn't really. I went like 4 or 5 days. Last night I just like binge watched all of the Real Housewives this week. There were 4 of them.
Does the artist
Which
way
is too many.
acknowledge what you should do when your heroes and role models are all sexual abusers?
It does not address that. So I feel like it was, yeah. And then when I started hearing about that stuff, I was like, oh, I need hot takes.
Yeah.
So I lasted like 4.5 days.
That's
or
pretty
something.
good though.
Yeah, pretty good.
That's a start.
Thank you.
That's something.
I don't know that it
time.
like did anything. I'm like, you know what? This is part of who I am. I love TV. I love social media. I love podcasts. And I was like not happier. So I don't know. I
You
haven't
weren't
been.
happier when you took a break.
No.
Okay.
I mean, in some ways I felt more present. I think maybe I can try and integrate. I can like tone it down a little bit,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I don't know.
find that my brain works better if I pick up a book instead of my phone.
yeah. Even
Not
if
at
I
the
just
time, the
like
next
sit,
day.
even if I just like sit and like look at things,
Yeah.
you know, I think I need to take, and it's also this interesting balance of like all those days off of social media. That definitely actually made me feel better, partially because of the comparing yourself to other people thing. That's a really big part of social media for me that I don't like. But what I also realized was bad is like, especially with comedy, it's like, oh, being on Facebook is sort of how I know sometimes about opportunities for stuff, sometimes about like fun shows to go to, or like shows to go to, or mics, or like just all kinds of stuff, or like things people are doing. It's sort of a social thing for me. Without that, it was kind of
Social
hard.
media.
It is, I know. But like in terms of like not just socializing through the media, so socializing in real life, and also like doing comedy stuff in real life. So it's hard to
thinks that it's time to
Oh,
go
no.
OUT because Shaki's putting on a sweater,
Oh no.
and it's not, kiddo. It's not. You've been real annoying today.
Oh.
She normally on the weekends.
This is Ariel's
sweet
dog,
little
Bamford.
gets into bed and she cuddles up with us, and she's like, "Oh, you can rub my belly." This morning, she was like punching us with her sweet little paw, and like mostly Shaki. She mostly punches him. She respects me. And
Wet nose in my ear.
yeah, she put her
Ew.
wet nose in Shaki's ear and was just like, "When are you gonna take me out? I wanna go."
And it was freezing out.
It was so cold. Ugh.
Man.
It was so cold.
Yeah. I don't know.
hate the winter. I hate it so much.
I hate it
and
so
makes
much.
me really angry.
No, dude. The
But
minute it hit 30 degrees, I was like, all right, I'm going to LA.
We had that conversation last night.
Oh
too.
my God. I am so like, what am I doing here? This is awful.
Every
I
year
hate it.
catches me off guard, and I
Well,
hate
because
it,
this
and I
city,
regret living here.
in great weather is awesome. It's so fun. It's beautiful. You walk everywhere. It's nice.
Everyone's in a good mood.
And then it gets cold, and you wear these coats that weigh 70 pounds, and you get in the subway, and it's so hot, and then you want to take it off, but there's no room to take it off, and
Your
then you're
skin is dry
sweating.
'cause the
Everything's
wind
so
is just-
dry. It's just
everybody's sick and sniffly.
The whole thing
My
is
hair gets so matted in my hat.
Yeah.
I have to you have to spend money on all this gear. I need a silk lined hat because apparently that's like
what's
going
going
to
to do it. I also think I might start carrying around a small brush
That's
in my
smart.
purse. My cousin, I went to a funeral, which was sad, but
Sorry.
it's okay. I mean, you know, it is what it is.
Everybody dies.
Yes. I went to a funeral in New Jersey with my family on Thursday to Friday, and my cousin who was there had a brush in her purse, and I was like, oh, this is smart. I need this. She and I have like very similar. We look very similar, kind of. And we have a similar hair, and she was like, yeah, in the winter, if the wind's gonna blow it everywhere, you gotta get. I was like, smart move.
So something good came out of that funeral.
Yeah, something good came out of it.
I love your hair.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy it's long again. It's still not as long as it will be, but I missed it so much. I was not my best self. Also, I've lost weight, so that helps. Feeling better about myself now. I'm still not,
That's all that matters.
again, still hate myself, but,
Yeah, but all that, I mean,
not as much.
it's not the weight itself. It's how you feel about yourself and how comfortable
Yeah, I mean, it's
you
also
feel.
the weight itself.
For you, it is.
It's also like my face looks different now. Thank God. And like I can fit into things and like, yeah. And I don't look at pictures of myself and like feel physically ill.
Most of that for me has just gone away. I started listening to this podcast called She's All Fat. And it's these two women who are fat and are just like very open about talking about it and the problems that come along with being fat, but also loving yourself when you are. And
Yeah.
there
guess
are a lot of messages that I have been able to apply to my own life.
I think that's good. I mean, I think to some degree the reality is that like I think some bodies are just supposed to be fat. Like some bodies are the body. It's like what your body when you're healthy and you take care of yourself, and that's what your body ends up being. I don't think it necessarily has to look a certain way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that like there's so many fat people who are like super healthy and fit and strong and everything, and I don't doubt that. I know that my body is not I was not moving. I was not moving, and I was not taking care of myself. So my body wasn't fat in like a positive way. It was like and it wasn't even fat. It was just like the same frame, but like I'm still eating whatever I want. I'm just exercising and eating whatever I want.
Right.
And this is what my body should be. I think this is like my normal.
That's what I mean. I've come to realize that my natural body weight is not 120 pounds as much.
No,
as
I wish it was. No,
my natural body weight, where I hover when I'm exercising and eating, like what I want, but within reason.
Right.
140 pounds.
Me too.
Take a couple pounds, and that's what it is.
That's what it is. And I was like,
and I don't.
I was
that
like
anymore.
way above that to the point where I was like, oh, I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Something's
but
wrong.
That's the thing. It's like how you feel.
No, this is
about
what
who
I
you
should
are.
be. Yeah, like this is what I should be, and I feel good about. And actually, it's a little stronger because I'm doing this workout thing.
Just look as you sit here with your pants unbuttoned.
I know. I'm sitting here with my pants unbuttoned because I just ate
okay,
a lot
leave
of
it unbuttoned.
sushi.
Don't unzip it. Yeah, there you go.
Well, look, I'm always gonna have this low belly, this little low belly.
Yeah.
But you know, I just feel like it's all just better. It took like 8 weeks. I still have 4 more weeks of this exercise program, and then there's like another one. My friend gave it to me. I'm just gonna keep doing this.
Yeah, keep doing
It's
it.
great.
If it makes you happy, keep doing it.
It does make me happy. I mean, it doesn't make me happy during it. It's very hard. Woo, baby.
Excuse me. That one's for Louis C.K. You fucking scum.
Anyway,
boy.
yeah, this was a weird week. It was a tough week.
I was talking to it was very weird. I talked to my brother about the podcast, and he was discussing an episode that he enjoyed, and he said something about like, this episode felt less militant in its feminism, and I was like, yeah.
Oh, good note. Let's not do that again.
Well, and I said, I was like, it really depends on what happened that week in the news.
Yeah.
Of how I feel and how much rage I want to inflict on men.
Yeah.
And how much uplifting I want to do for women.
Yeah.
It really depends on what's
So
happened.
this
that
one's
week.
going to be vicious.
So this week,
although I kind of have a complicated woman. I mean, she's not that. She's like a
Right.
little complicated. So
we're all complicated.
we are.
Do you wanna
But
tell
men
me
are
about it?
simply bad.
Period. No questions.
I could tell you about her.
Yeah.
So I thought about I was just browsing that National Women's History Museum website, which is nice because it has all these little bios, and I came across a Native American woman, and I was like, oh God, I don't know that we've done any Native American women.
La Malinche was native.
Oh, okay. I guess
I'm a traitor to her people.
Yeah, and I guess I mean it was all the same
Claudia
thing.
Hernandez.
I'm thinking of Mexico versus the U.S. in terms of, but that neither of them were things. Then you're right. I guess I meant like Native American within what became the United States, which I guess isn't whatever. But anyway, but
It's all a matter of like which land did we steal?
Did we steal? Right. So I was like, okay, I'll do that because it's November. Turkey Day, etc. And I think it actually is Native American History Month. I saw somewhere.
Yeah, or like Awareness Month. Or
Yeah.
something like that.
And I was like, oh, maybe I'll try and do for the rest of the month. I'll try and do Native American women. I don't know.
That's great.
That's an idea. I have one. We'll see what happens next week. But sometimes I feel like overwhelmed by choices, so it's nice to give myself a theme to follow, or else I just like it takes me like 2 hours to figure out who I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I like that we had a theme for the Halloween episode.
I know.
Think we can do like more of the, not exclusively, but maybe like around Christmas we can do a like saint one.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, I definitely
whatever.
should do Irish people for St. Patrick's Day. I will anyway.
Okay.
Or like love stories for, I don't know, just
Yeah.
a little theme. It helps literally because otherwise I just can't make a decision.
No, I get it. It's really tough
So-
sometimes when you're just overwhelmed. With all of
Yeah.
it.
So I was like, okay, this is a good theme. So her name is Nanyehi Ward, or Nancy Ward is what she later is known as. She was born into the most prestigious clan of the Cherokees. It was the Wolf Clan in the Chota region of the Cherokee Nation, which is now basically the eastern Tennessee Hills.
Okay.
Her mother was Tame Doe, and her father was Fire Killer.
Man, those names.
Pretty cool.
So good.
So cool, yeah. She married a guy named
Ashley.
Yeah, yeah. She married a guy named Kingfisher in her early teens. Oh, excuse me. This wine is making me sleepy. And she had 2 kids.
What year are we talking?
So she's
century?
born in 1738, around there. I think they don't know the exact, but around 1738. So, I mean, if think contextually, everything's
go fine.
yeah. It's a real crazy time to be born a Cherokee in that moment. But anyway, so 1755, she fights alongside her husband Kingfisher in this battle with like land rivals at the Battle of Taliwa. And he gets killed. One thing I saw was that like she was like kind of bent down making ammunition, and he gets killed or something, and she just like decides to rally the troops and take charge and leads her group to victory. And so then after that, the Cherokees honored her by naming her, okay, I'm gonna maybe pronounce this wrong, Gihigua. I'm sorry.
I'm sure that's wrong.
That's not right. Ghighua. So
Yeah.
Gihigua
Nah, I don't know.
is sort of what it looks like, but it translates to beloved woman. So let's just go with that.
Right.
So basically, the beloved woman was like a position within the Cherokee community, and if a woman was named beloved woman, she was like very well respected, and she had all this influence. So as beloved woman, the Cherokee believed that the Great Spirit could speak through her. So she had a lot of influence over tribal government. She headed the Women's Council, sat on the Council of Chiefs. So like in their society, women made a lot of the like war decisions and stuff like that. And later there's like some story about how this is a little bit of a spoiler, but she basically eventually starts like later in her life, she kind of negotiates with the European settlers in some ways. And at one point she like brought a proposal to a European settler and like was like, okay, have your women decide what to do about this or something. And the guy was like, no.
Don't play that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I just assume.
Yeah, like she just thought that that's how it was. So yeah, there we go.
And maybe if it had been like that,
shit would be
things would not
better.
have
Compromise would have happened,
the way
and
they did.
right, exactly.
Compromise would have happened, and the Civil War never would have.
Right, exactly. There you go. So anyway, she also had power over like prisoners of war and maintaining peace. So basically, where am I? Sorry, I have a couple sources here. So at this point, like white settlers start moving into Cherokee lands. There's something called the Royal Proclamation of 1763, in which King George III told American colonists basically to stop expanding westward and recognize Native American lands, and then the colonists would just illegally settle there anyway. Mm-hmm. Basically, yeah, this was sort of the beginnings of some of the like tension with King George, which led to America. The Revolutionary War. So
interesting, because I don't think we learned about like the policies that the king had that we actually probably should have followed.
Yeah, no, we don't really learn about that.
Taxation without representation,
right? Which also later, this is a whole other thing. It turns out that the taxation, a lot of it was for the French and Indian War, which was where the British and the French were fighting each other for control of these lands, and the French, most of the Native Americans were on the side of the French because they were like easier to deal with. Yeah. And then at first the French were winning, and then the British poured a ton of money into it so that they could like make these colonies British colonies, and they ended up winning. The British won, and then because the war cost so much, they were taxing the American colonists for this war. So it was kind of like payback for, it wasn't even like that much like without representation. It was like a lot of it was like, I mean, some of it was, but some of it was like payback for the French and Indian War, which they had just basically helped them win so that they could stay there and expand and do what they wanted to do. Basically, we were founded by a bunch of babies. Woo! Founding babies.
Founding babies.
Anyway, so these...
That
I was not a founding father.
No, it's fine. I panicked and I couldn't remember the Declaration of Independence.
Oh, these truths to be self-evident. That all babies are created equal. Founding babies is
hey, if you're into
so
baby
funny.
talk, you're welcome.
Get on board. Don't masturbate without our consent. Okay. White settlers moved into these lands, and mostly illegally, but because it was sort of happening in this when you're in the scheme of things, you're like, hey, my lands, but like face to face, you're like meeting these people and like whatever. So a lot of Cherokee women began marrying white Europeans, actually.
Sure.
And
hey,
then
I'm a sucker for a British accent.
I know.
Always have been,
I
always
know. The National Women's History Museum called the white Europeans Euro-Americans, and I was like, I don't think that's at this point they're just Europeans who are there, but okay. Euro-Americans feels a little too generous of a term like for what they were, but anyway, so Nanyehi, or Nancy, remarries a British trader named Bryant Ward.
Trader, right? Not Traitor. Trader versus trader.
Yes, like a person who trades goods. Yes. And renames herself Nancy Ward. She learns English and studies the ways of the Anglo-Americans, aka White Devils.
She took his last name and also a different first name.
Yeah, it is a little weird because I also learned that like Cherokees were a matrilineal society, so like they trace family heritage through women's names,
like the Jews.
Oh, yeah. Yes, exactly.
I try to make everything like the Jews as often as I can.
Yeah, well, we got to defend ourselves these days. There's a lot going on. Anyway.
Globalist Nancy Ward.
Globalist cuck Nancy Ward. She was actually sort of a globalist in this way. So basically, like, she has this sort of position of power within the Cherokee community, and she sees all these land grabs happening, and her feeling is like, let's compromise, let's work this out in a peaceful way. Like, I don't want violence, I don't want civilians killed, like all this. So the Cherokees, like, at one point prepared to attack a group of these illegal white settlements on the Watauga River. And she didn't want any civilian deaths, so she ends up warning them before the Cherokees can come. And most of them like flee or they're able to fight back. And this one woman, Mrs. Bean, was captured, which is, I just keep thinking of Mr. Bean with a wig on. But that's not who it was. It was a British lady. So this is tricky. Like, there's a lot of stuff in her life, like, because she like wanted compromise, she wanted peace, she did do things that seem historically unclear, right? Like what her intentions were. Based on stuff later in her life, it does seem like she truly just wanted peace, and that was her main goal. And it doesn't seem like she was like a traitor in any way. I mean, I guess you could say if you warn someone of an attack, then you are kind of a traitor, but it was really because she wanted peace and she wanted negotiations, and she did not want it to be a bloody thing. And also potentially tactically, because she knew that the numbers were against her people, and that they didn't have as good of a chance. So anyway, there's this woman named Mrs. Bean who gets captured, and she's charged with execution. So as she's being tied to the stake
Mrs.
to be...
Bean is?
Yeah.
She's sentenced to execution.
Yeah, so as she's being tied to the stake to be burned alive, Nancy uses her power to spare captives. It's like one of her powers as the beloved woman, to save her. And while she's nursing her back to health, Mrs. Bean teaches Nancy to set up a loom and spin thread or yarn into weaving clothes, which made the clothes like much more comfortable, because before they were still using sort of a mix of the traditional like hide clothing and also this sort of like rough woven hemp clothes, or they were very reliant on the British traders with a D. And this, like, in the long run, this made Cherokee people much less dependent on them.
So it's like it's like this version of like give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish.
Exactly.
And
Teach
it's
a
like,
woman to sew.
Yeah.
But then it also kind of had the effect of sort of gendering them in a westernized way where women were making clothes and doing more stuff in the house in the long term. This woman also, Mrs. Bean, also had dairy cattle that I guess she got taken with her to the Cherokee nation when she was with Nancy. And so she introduced dairy farming to Nancy, which, allowed them to have cheese and butter. Here's a complicated part. So because eventually, like in the long run, dairy farming meant that they needed more labor, and that meant that they eventually had more slaves. Nancy was actually the first, if not one of the first, if not the first Cherokee slave owner, because after that battle of Taliwa, where she took over for her husband when he died, she was quote unquote awarded a slave, or an enslaved person, enslaved person, by because of the victory, and one of the people who she had beaten, she got her enslaved person. So his enslaved person rather. So anyway, that is a complicated part of this.
I think it is one of these arguments that a lot of these pro-Confederacy people try to make when they're talking about how slavery wasn't that bad, is the Native Americans had slaves, and a lot of them did, and there is biblical precedents for slaves.
Right. Just because other people of color did it didn't mean it's not bad.
Right. Well, and it's usually when it happens, it is prisoners of war. It is people who...
Right.
But the difference is that an entire nation was not founded on
and
the
literally
backs
built
of slave labor, and then continued to be oppressed through laws that targeted people who used to be enslaved.
And also
that is the difference.
And also laws that helped the already empowered group.
Right.
Yeah.
So
no, I mean we all agree. I mean, look,
not
it's just
excusing it by any means.
No, but it's complicated.
But it's not on the same.
Right. No. It's all just complicated, but that's just a fact to know about her.
Yeah.
So
I love a complicated woman.
Yeah, she's complicated. So she basically her goal of peace is potentially reached after the French and Indian War that I was telling you about. There's a sort of brief moment of peace, but then tensions begin to rise during the American Revolution. Most Cherokees sided with the British because they were very anti-colonists, and they would rather have the British rule, because they just kept illegal. And so basically, the pattern of the Cherokee Nation, this very tragic history, is there were all of these treaties that were written and
forever, and nothing bad ever
happened, and they were just continually disregarded. So yeah, it's not great. It's not great. During the American Revolution, she also warned white settlers of Cherokee attacks and free prisoners. Historians argue her motives with this, like I said. One idea was that she just supported the colonists. One was that she wanted to keep powerful connections that she had made to the colonists. But I think the one that's most decided upon is that she was just a realist who, like I said, recognized that they were outnumbered and wanted to avoid conflict and had hope that there could be a peaceful solution.
Yeah, or it's like when you hear one of your friends talking shit about your other friend, and you go and tell your other friend that that they were talking shit about you, and you think it's because you're just keeping the peace or whatever, but really you're making things worse.
Yeah. And I don't know that she made things worse. They still respected Cherokees, still respected her because she was a beloved woman and stuff like that. So I don't know. And although the resources I have, she does seem to be kind of beloved on both sides, both Native American resources and U.S. history resources both seem to kind of idealize her. So I think that general going theory was that she really truly just wanted peace. I mean, it's those things in history that you'll never really know, but that she wanted peace, and that was it.
Our seance after this
exactly.
podcast,
We already have the candle lit. So in 1781, she and her family are spared when their village becomes prisoners and becomes captured.
Captured by
the U.S. by like the colonists.
Okay. And do they spare them because like they know who she is?
Yeah, but she has like connections with these people and stuff. So July 1781, exactly. She participated in the negotiations for a peace treaty between the Cherokees and the settlers. In 1785, she helped negotiate the Treaty of Hopewell between the Cherokee and the U.S.
I feel like I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's like, you know, one of these like many treaties that just is not like doesn't go anywhere, unfortunately. And by the early 19th century, she starts to really worry about the land that her people are losing. I think her like idealism kind of disappears. And she just really starts to feel like shit's hitting the fan. I read about like the Trail of Tears. Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, because the early 19th century is when she started to really get worried. And then, because that's, yeah. So she starts to get really like worried about things. Things seems to be going a bad way and like politically and everything, where it just seems like the U.S. I know. I know it never really turns around, unfortunately, for the Cherokees. And so at 79 years old, she's like too weak to attend the council meeting, but she sends a message urging her people not to part with any more land. She keeps like in her later years, like she becomes a little more stringent and is like, oh, wait a minute, like don't give up any more land. Like this is maybe there isn't going to be compromise. It's almost weird. It's like usually when you get older, you become more conservative, and it seems like she kind of became more radical as she got older, because as she saw that like things are not being respected, like this isn't going to work. In 1819, the lands that she grew up on were sold, and she's forced to relocate. She returns to Chota, where she was born, and spends her final years there running an inn with her husband. She dies in what year? She dies in around 1824, and so then less than a decade later is the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which led to the Trail of Tears. Basically, I don't want to give it too brief. I just like read up on this again this week, but basically, this Indian Removal Act of 1830 allowed there to be these negotiations between Native Americans and the U.S. government under Andrew Jackson, where they would make these like horrible, unfair deals, where they would give them like land out west in order to take the land that they currently have, and that led to the Trail of Tears, where thousands of Cherokees died as they were forced out of their homes and had to like literally walk across the country. So yeah, unfortunately, it's a very, very sad story.
And did she go on the Trail of Tears?
No, so she died like less than a decade before the Act of 1830. Okay. So, wait, actually, I forget what exact year the Trail of Tears was.
But it sounds like she kind of like saw that coming.
Yeah, she totally saw it coming. And it's weird. It sounds like I said, during her earlier years, she was like so hopeful for peace and like really believed in compromise and all of this. And then at a certain point, it was just not. It was like she kind of realized too late not to trust these people.
If only one party is actually willing to compromise and the other party is pretending to be willing to compromise.
Right, but how do you know? You know,
there's no way to know. But
yeah,
it's sort of like what we talked about a little last week with the Louisiana Constitution, of like these gradual changes in policy that ultimately allow for this thing that, you know, centuries later we wonder, how could this have happened? And it's like, well, this is how it happened. Yeah. It was this very gradual erosion of respect.
Yeah. So actually it was a long time span. It's between 1831 and 1850. Was when the Trail of Tears was. I guess it was like a kind of an ongoing thing. Yeah. So they were forced to march to these new lands by state and local militias. The death count was 4,000 Cherokees, 3,000 Creek, Seminole, and 3,500 Chickasaw, and somewhere between 2,500 or 6,000 Choctaw.
And was this also part of the smallpox blankets, or is that a different thing?
I don't know. I feel like they're related. It's probably around the same time, but I'm not entirely sure. I can look that up too. But yeah, so it's interesting. Her legacy is, it's tough. It's like she really seemed like a super strong woman who like had the best of intentions, and and I don't know that like her position necessarily would have changed. I don't know how much it would have changed. It seems like the reality was that they were outnumbered, and that like the greed and the immorality and the lack of respect that the newly Americans had for the Native American population was never going to be outdone. Like I don't know that I don't.
It's kind of like by the 1700s, what could have been done?
Right? Yeah.
Like they're, by the time you realize what's actually happening.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah. It's a little tricky. Like they really would have all had to unitedly not trusted these people from the beginning, and even then, I don't know.
There's also like I think there are times where like excuse me, settlers, I guess in like the 15 and 1600s would ally themselves with other Native Americans, tribes with the promise of like helping them fight another Native American tribe who they had been at war with previously. Like that's what happened with Montezuma.
Yeah.
And, like why they were easily defeated is because the colonists allied themselves with Native American tribes who the Aztecs had previously enslaved or conquered. So it's like, yeah, real complicated.
This was different. The smallpox blanket thing was the British gave them Okay, so this was during the siege of Fort Pitt in 1763
You read that Wikipedia page.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, a lot of this is Wikipedia. I feel like for like big events like this, and you're just looking at the details, the general details, I feel like it's pretty much good. I don't know. But the event is best known as an early instance of biological warfare, where the British gave items from a smallpox infirmary as gifts to Native American emissaries with the hope of spreading the deadly disease to nearby tribes.
Christmas
ever. Yeah. So anyway, she, like I said, she's pretty like, well thought of by multiple sources that I saw, which I'll name in a second, but some that seemed more like they were coming from the Native American community, and some that seemed like they were more coming from like the mainstream U.S. history point of view. And in 1923, the Nancy Ward chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution built a monument near her grave in Benton, Tennessee. Yeah, so apparently she has a monument there. My sources were manataka.org, which is the American Indian Council, allthingscherokee.com, and the National Women's History Museum, and Wikipedia for some of the bigger like ticket items. Oh, and also this was a little bit weird, and I feel bad making fun of it because look, art is important, but Nancy's 5th great-granddaughter wrote a musical about her, and there's a website for that. Yes. And it's, you know what? God bless. She made a thing. I've never written a musical. Who am I to judge is all I have to say about it.
Okay. What's the musical called?
I think I forget. I'll look it up. I think it's just called.
It's on a website.
Oh, she has a very intense website.
We'll put it on the Facebook page. You don't have to look at it right now. We'll put it on the Facebook page.
It's called like Grey Wolf. Oh, there's also and so her 5th great granddaughter's website says this, and then there was another website that said this too, which was just that apparently witnesses say when she died, like a white light came out of her and circled around, and it was like a wolf or something. I don't know. I mean, like, okay. I mean, look. When she
died, they were smoking whatever they smoked.
It's not. I mean, who knows? You know what? I wasn't there.
And beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with it. But also, you were under the influence of something. I've done mushrooms. I get it. You see everybody's aura. Is it true? Yes.
Well, she didn't even, she died like
no.
at an inn with her white husband. So I don't know. I don't even know that. I think it's just lore, perhaps, or maybe magic exists and I am a huge
magic doesn't exist, but
bummer.
drugs do, and chemicals in your brain get released, and it's wonderful. Lori, I saw the other night. I was doing not to brag, but I was doing Check Spot.
Wow.
New York, and Lori Kilmartin was there and was running new jokes, but she had this joke about like she just tried mushrooms for the first time, and she was like, "That's it. I just want somebody to take my son away from me."
That's so funny. Oh my God. We should go see her. Who cares about the subway? Take a lift. Take a lift home.
Opened with it.
I have to fart.
Okay, fart. I live with Shafi. Go ahead.
I know. And Bamford. Oh, there it is.
Man, Bamford, I'll like cuddle up with her.
That's
and
rude.
She will just fart in my face and then look at me like, what?
All I ate today was 2 cupcakes and a bunch of sushi, so
it's okay.
Things
I'm
are happening.
Congested, so I can't really smell anyway.
Perfect. We're a perfect pair.
Oh, we always have been. Okay, let me settle myself in.
Oh, yeah.
Tell you a
Settle on
story.
in.
Tell you a story.
Little girl.
This one's fun. Mine's a little lighthearted because I felt a little bad about last week where I was just like a lot of intense shit, which is going to happen. I mean,
that's a lot. That's a lot of them.
This one's
more
fun.
Uplifting.
This one's it's just a little more lighthearted.
Okay.
I'm going to say my sources first because I've had 2 glasses of wine and I'll forget otherwise. Gary Cooper, the actor from Ebony Magazine. J.C. Rindle from the Toledo Blade. Weird Wonderful Women, which is a YouTube channel, which had some things wrong, but I appreciated that they did a thing. The Inflation Calculator, African American History is American History YouTube channel, which is a little wordy, and blackcowboys.com. And sorry for all of my judgment about all of my sources because they did things that I didn't, but still, like, come on.
Wow.
Okay. So my story is about Mary Fields, and here we go. Mary was born into slavery around 1832 in Tennessee. She worked on a cotton plantation and quickly grew taller than all the boys her age. At age 18, she was 6 feet tall and over 200 pounds.
Whoa.
She was huge. She was owned by the Dunn family. And it's Dunn is like Dunne, and it seems like they were not the absolute worst. Like, I mean, like obviously owning slaves is awful, but it seems like they treated her with some sort of humanity. She was owned by she was a human being except for the whole owning her thing. The father, the patriarch of the Dunn family, was a judge who would go on to become a Supreme Court judge of Arizona. And also, like, later on, he joined the Union, like when. After the Civil War, it seems like he aligned himself with the Union.
Oh, okay.
When slavery was outlawed in 1865, that's when she stopped being enslaved.
What year was she born again?
She was born in 1832.
Oh, okay.
So she was already 33, and I have this throughout. Like, I'll tell her ages throughout because it's crazy bananas what she did at what ages.
Whoa.
So when she was 33. She went to Mississippi to work as a chambermaid on the Robert E. Lee steamboat for a while, which is also like to be a former enslaved person and then work on a steamboat.
Yeah, I was about to say Mississippi would not be the place I would move to once freed, but all right.
And I think she got tired of it pretty quickly because she at some point found out that Judge Dunn's wife was sick, and so Mary decided to come back and work for the Dunn family again and took care of his wife.
But for money this time.
And took care of her until she died in 1883, making her 51 at this point. And this left Judge Dunn with 5 kids. And he was like, oh, fuck, I cannot take care of 5 kids and be a judge because men cannot have it all either, right? Like, we're all... So he then asks Mary to bring the kids to Ohio to live with his sister. And he had already written to her, and she was like, yeah, I'll take care of them. The sister his sister is named Sarah Teresa Dunn and becomes known as Mother Amadeus because she becomes like the head mother of a nun convent, which I should have written down what it's called, but I didn't. So,
I know what you meant.
Mary and Mother Amadeus had grown up together. They were friends. Mother Amadeus had taught Mary to read and write when they were little kids. And like the Dunns also like, I mean, it's like shitty. I'm not trying to like make a slave owning family sound better, but like they seemed to like they allowed like Mary as a little kid to interact with their kids and like play, and didn't seem to have a problem with like them learning to read and write. Like,
Right.
They seem to, you know, as far as slave owning families go, they seem to be on the right side of this.
Yeah.
Which is complicated, but it's sort of one of these things that I thought about as far as like when the show Confederacy comes out. I'm sure this is going to be an angle that they'll take. And look, like I'm just sort of predicting, and that's not fair necessarily without having seen it, but this idea of not all slave owners.
Oh my God.
And so I'm trying to be careful about that, of like I don't want to.
Well, it's just the realities of the situation. I mean, they still like were they were still complicit for sure, and it just the circumstances of her enslaved personhood were what they were, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So
objectively, this is what it was. It's not good or bad. I mean, it's bad, you know.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Mary takes the kids to Ohio to live with Mother Amadeus. She's just like, cool, totally happy to take care of these kids. And like, Mary, do you
also, I like how you were like, this is a light one. This is a light one, just an enslaved person, but like, she could read, so this is history on a good day. You know what I mean?
On a good day. It is. Okay, so Mary is just like, totally, I want to stay here with you and these kids. I love you. I love these kids. And like, where else would I go? So a year later,
were they hooking up?
I don't think so, but that's a great question. I wonder. So Mary never gets married, and I think in a different time she for sure would have been a wonderful lesbian.
Yeah,
is the
vibe you get?
Because there's no mention of anything sexual throughout this story, and it very much makes me wonder, because like the vast majority of human beings are sexual. Like there are asexual people. Yeah. But like surely she had urges. Yeah. And like what was going on? And I don't know. And I would speculate wildly if we were not on mic.
Yeah.
But so a year later, Mother Amadeus was relocated to a mission in Montana to establish a school because she was an Ursuline nun. And we talked about them a little bit with that heiress whose name I forget, but who we covered, who
who created the...
Yeah, who like established all these schools. And Ursuline nuns in particular have a mission to educate.
Cool.
So Mother Amadeus goes to Montana, which was not a state yet. It wouldn't be a state for another 5 years.
Oy.
And like the idea of Montana at that point is so scary to me.
I mean, the idea of Montana now, really.
Yeah. It still seems like the kind of place where like animals that you have a bond with get eaten by animals that you do not have a bond with. So Mary was in Ohio. I
feel like it seems like the place where people you have a bond with get eaten by animals you don't have a bond with. Gets eaten by animals maybe you do have a bond with. Yeah. It's all wild.
Yeah,
it's a Wild West situation. Yeah.
Like they still really respect that order.
Yeah.
So Mary at the time was in Ohio with the kids. And then gets word that Mother Amadeus had fallen ill.
Oh no.
Because it's Montana. And medicine isn't a thing. And Mary, without hesitation, goes to Montana and nurses Mother Amadeus back to health.
With all the kids?
So you know what's interesting?
Unclear.
There is no more mention of these kids.
Maybe they grew up. It's been a while.
I don't know what happened with these kids. I don't know if
they're old enough
with her or if she... I don't know what happened. But the kids don't matter anymore.
They figure it out.
So she nurses Mother Amadeus back to health, and while Mary is there, she befriends the other nuns and is like, I really like it here in Cascade, Montana. There's not a cotton field in sight. I feel right at home. So Mary decides she's just going to stay, and she starts working with the nuns. She helps them build their convent. She would haul materials by herself from town. She started raising chickens. She had a garden, and she would babysit all the kids in town. And like later on, they say like whenever, like basically Mary was the first person that any parents would go to when they needed a babysitter. They were just like, we trust her infinitely. One time, Mary found that a bunch of her baby chicks had been killed by a skunk. So she hunted down the skunk, killed it, and like a cat looking for praise, took the dead skunk to the convent a mile away and showed it to the priest who was working there. He asked if she had gotten sprayed by the skunk, and she was like, no, I attacked it from the front, not the back, which like I guess is a thing.
Cool story.
So Mary was in charge of bringing supplies from town to the convent. One night, Mary was carrying $30 worth of supplies, which in today's money is $800 worth of supplies. So like
Oh my God.
substantial. She was carrying that back to the nuns when her wagon was attacked by wolves.
What?
And her horses bolted because horses are huge pussies.
Yeah.
Huge pussies who are afraid of everything. One time I rode a horse with like some friends. We were all riding horses, and we had to cross a creek, and getting most of those horses over that creek, this like sweet little like babbling brook, was a real pain in the ass. And that's the most Kentucky thing I'll say. But so these horses bolt. They spill all of the supplies.
Oh no.
Because they're like these beautiful, majestic bitches. So Mary then spent the night fighting off the wolves with her revolver. And when dawn broke, she hauled all of the supplies
Oh my God.
the rest of the way to the nuns.
Whoa.
And they were like, thank you so much for doing that. However, some of the molasses spilled, and we're going to have to dock your pay.
Really?
Yeah.
Ew.
So that's like, I mean, at the time, that's like mail and like cargo was everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like it made me think of when, what's the fucking shitty ass Supreme Court judge who just got, who is now on the Gorsuch.
Yeah.
There was that story about how like he had previously ruled when a truck driver got stuck in a storm and abandoned the truck to go get help, like that he was forced to pay for like what he was hauling.
Yeah.
And Gorsuch ruled in favor of the company that was charging him. I like, it made me think of this.
Yeah.
Like, that's the precedent for like prioritizing cargo over
people.
a life. And that was sort of, I mean, it'll come into play later, but like the mail system prioritized whatever was being carried over the carrier.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like that happened, but also like Mary loved the nuns and they loved her. She worked as a forewoman, a carpenter, a gardener. She was the only black person who had ever set foot in Cascade, Montana, and there wouldn't be another.
Still is.
Well, for another 40 years after her death, there wouldn't be another black person in Cascade. She would dress in men's clothing except for an apron, and she was usually very heavily armed. And according to the Great Falls Examiner, she also, quote, broke more noses than any other person in central Montana. So here's a story from blackcowboys.com.
Perfect.
So I'm just going to read this story. Once, a hired hand at the mission confronted her with the complaint that she was earning $2 a month more than he was. She was earning $9 a month. He was earning $7 a month. And why did she think that she was worth so much money anyway, being only an uppity colored woman? To make matters worse, he made the same complaint and general description in public at one of the local saloons where Mary was a regular customer, and followed that up with a more polite version directed directly to Bishop Philbus, who was like the bishop of the convent. This was more than enough to boil Mary's blood, and at the very next opportunity, the two of them were engaged in a shootout behind the nunnery next to the sheep shed.
Oh, God.
God damn it. Sorry, I lost my place real quick. Just
You were at sheep shed.
yeah.
Feels like she was just really owning that town.
Okay, here we go. Actually, it turned into a shootout because when Mary went to simply shoot the man as he cleaned out the latrine, figuring to dump his body in there, she missed. He shot back and the fracas was on.
Oh, gosh.
Bullets flew in every direction until the 6 guns were empty and blood was spilt. Neither actually hit the other by direct fire, but one bullet shot by Mary bounced off the stone wall of the nunnery and hit the man in the left buttock, which completely ruined his new $1.85 trousers. Not only that, but other bullets Mary fired passed through the laundry of the bishop, which was hanging on the line, generously ventilating his drawers, and the 2 white shirts he had shipped from Boston only the week before. What his laundry was doing at the nunnery is not clear. I mean, somebody was fucking a nun. But that was enough for the bishop. He fired Mary and gave the injured man a raise. So the nuns were like super reluctant to let Mary go because they left her and they were like, she fucking did all this work for us.
Yeah.
She's so strong. But nuns are part of an order and they follow orders. So Mary then decides to open up a restaurant in town in Cascade. But because she would feed anybody who came to her restaurant, whether or not they could pay, which means that she was broke in 10 months.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's very sweet, but
that's not good for business.
So she's out of, so then like the restaurant closes in 10 months. It's 1895, making Mary 63. So Mother Amadeus, who was back in Ohio, heard about Mary's troubles and reached out to a contact she had in government and arranged an opportunity for Mary to deliver the mail and become a stagecoach. And at the time, it was like mail carriers were contract workers, and it was like basically whoever would make the lowest bid, but also most reliable. So Mary was super, super reliable and was able to charge a little more for her work than like other people. She became the second woman and the first Black woman to work for the U.S. Postal Service. And like we said, like the mail was more important than the carrier's life. So Mary earned a reputation as someone who would always deliver the mail on time. She never missed a day of work. She was never late with the mail, even though in Montana, it could reach -45.
Oh my God.
Which was crazy because yesterday it was like 30, and I was
and I didn't leave the house.
I need to leave this town. Like I can't live here. If the snow was too high for her stagecoach, she would get out and just walk however far she needed to walk. In some cases, it was like 10 miles. One night, stranded in a blizzard, she stayed up, pacing back and forth to keep from freezing to death, and then delivered the mail.
Wow.
She would fight off coyotes, wolves, and bandits. At age 70, after like 8 years of doing this, she was like, you know what? I think I'm ready to retire and like find a stable income and not do the mail anymore because I'm just getting a little older. So she opened up a laundry service in Cascade. And like, again, she would, anybody, if they couldn't pay, if they told her that they couldn't pay, she was just like, it's fine, don't worry about it. But if you tried to stiff her, fuck you.
Yeah.
So one time she was at the bar, at the saloon. She was drinking and smoking a cigar, just like what she loved to do, when she saw a guy who owed her $2 for laundry. So she followed him out and was like, hey, dude, you owe me $2 for laundry money. And he was like, fuck you. You're a Black woman. I don't owe you shit. So Mary punched him, knocked him unconscious. He lost some teeth. She went back to the bar and declared that his debt for the laundry was paid.
That's how I get paid in laundry. They just punch me in the face.
Yeah. And like the bar loved her because whenever somebody wanted their laundry done, they knew that they had to go to the saloon to find her. And while they were there, they're like, I might as well just like get a drink while I'm here. She was like an open mic in a bar on a Monday night. Right? Like, if you let us hang out here, I'll bring you a bunch of alcoholics on your least busy night.
Perfect.
Which is fun because Molly and I used to run an open mic.
But they already had plenty of business because they had free food that night.
But like, that's why bars have free food in New Orleans on Monday nights.
Right.
It's like to bring in people on a Monday night to come drink.
Mm-hmm.
No, they were just really nice. If you live in New Orleans, go to 12 Mile Limit in Mid-City. It's the best bar. I love them so much. They at the bar liked her so much that when Montana passed a law saying that women were no longer allowed in saloons, the mayor of Cascade specifically declared that Mary was the exception. So Mary is like not like the other girls. Whenever someone who didn't know her came to town, she would bet them $5 and a glass of whiskey that they couldn't take a punch from her without being knocked out.
Whoa.
Which is hilarious because she would always knock them out. So in the same way that I drank for free in college by like showing my tits a little and making eye contact, Mary just gave concussions to drink for free.
Sounds great.
It's amazing. A local girl at school in Cascade wrote an essay about her saying, quote, "She drinks whiskey, fights, and she swears. And she's a Republican, which makes her a low, foul creature." And of course, at the time, Republicans
were the good guys.
They were the ones who were like, maybe don't enslave everybody. Since she was born a slave, Mary had no clue when her actual birthday was. So twice a year, she would just declare it was her birthday whenever she felt like it. And the schools would close and the whole town would celebrate.
That's awesome.
I know. I just love the idea of like every 6 months, she's just like,
it's my birthday.
Yeah, I'm ready to celebrate. Let's celebrate. There was a local baseball team, and I meant to look up their name because we talked about like how minor league baseball teams always have the best names.
Stupidest names, yeah.
And I forgot to, but Mary loved them and became their unofficial mascot. She would come to all of the games and give a bouquet of flowers to any player that hit a home run.
Whoa.
She would also punch anyone who said anything bad about the team. She's a real fire and ice.
She's very loyal.
Yeah. She's super, super loyal and just like knew how to get respect.
Didn't take no shit.
Took no shit from anybody.
That's awesome.
In 1912, when Mary was 80 years old, her home burned down and she lost everything. So the whole town donated all of the supplies needed and rebuilt her home for her.
Oh, that's like, nice.
You let us like eat at your restaurant for free when we couldn't pay. You did our laundry for us when we couldn't pay. You're like a fixture of this community. Yeah. We have your back, girl.
Oh, that's nice.
And there was a little hotel in town that I think was like meant for passerby or whatever. But the owner of it leased out the hotel to somebody else with a condition that Mary could have all of her meals there for free for the rest of her life.
Oh, cool.
And then in 1914, at age 82, Mary died of liver failure.
Well, she drank a lot, but that's pretty long. 82. I mean,
it's so funny. In like one of the
dude,
videos,
if I get past 70, I'll be like, that's enough.
In one of the videos that I watched, said like, you know, all of her years of hard drinking and cigar smoking took their toll.
It's like
82. I was like, at 82, who gives a shit?
It's like she should have drank more.
Yeah, she could have died at 70 and you'd still be like,
yeah.
Oh, you're,
I mean, under 60, you're like,
I mean, this is like the age.
No, under 70, I guess. Under 70.
Yeah, under 70. But also, like, back then, people were just dying of everything.
I know.
So
82 is very good.
She was known, her nicknames were Stagecoach Mary and Black Mary, which, you know, problematic.
Well, look,
you got three Marys in town. You got Tall Mary,
and you only have one
Mary,
black person in town,
yeah,
so
she's Black Mary.
There it is.
She was buried in the Hillside Cemetery in Cascade, Montana. Gary Cooper, who was like an Academy Award winning actor, When he was a kid, he was from Helena. And as a kid, he like visited one of his friends in Cascade, and Mary would be their babysitter. And so he grew up like
knowing her
and hearing stories from her. And he wrote her obituary much later, like in the 50s. I think it was like 2 years before he ended up dying. But he wrote this obituary for her in Ebony magazine, which is a great article. Like it's pretty accessible online, so I recommend it. But he wrote, quote, "Born a slave somewhere in Tennessee, Mary became one of the freest souls to ever draw a breath or a 38.
Oh, I love that. What a cool lady.
And that's Mary Fields.
Wow, this was a hot one.
I loved her.
Ooh.
I
love her too.
And also Rejected Princesses, that book.
She was in there too?
She's in there. Well, because I was like...
It's behind you.
Yeah. It's behind me. Also, like, overwhelmed by choices. And so I was like, all right, let me just go back to
That's
the
where
old
you have
Rejected
to
Princesses
find, yeah.
and just see who I like.
I know. I like to, it's like the themes are helpful. Those little, like, those like collections of biographies are helpful.
Yeah. So Rejected Princesses by Jason Porath, which we mentioned like way in the beginning of this
And
podcast.
also I've used them a lot too there because they have a
the
website.
But the book is beautiful. You smell that.
Not too bad actually. I haven't showered today. Are we should we well, you said your shows already.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything to plug. Although we have to plug our all female reboot. Are you coming to that one?
Yeah, I'll be there. November 18th.
November 18th at the Tank.
At the Tank Theater in Hell's Kitchen-y area.
Yeah.
At 7:00, right?
And that night I'm also on Freaknik at the Creek in the Cave at 10 p.m.
Oh, that's a fun show.
I know. I'm a little worried that I'm going to be sleepy. A sleepy boy. That's pretty much all I have this week. So
I know this week is much less busy for the time being. Email us at wellbehavepod@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at wellbehavepod and like us on Facebook at wellbehavepodcast.
Yeah. Leave us a review.
Please review, subscribe
on iTunes
on
podcasts.
And on Facebook, frankly.
And everything, everywhere.
It helps. And tell a friend if you
It really
enjoyed
helps.
this.
It takes like 2 seconds.
Okay, tonight, Monday the 13th, I will be at the Passage Irish Bar and Kitchen at 9:00 in Astoria.
Wow.
Thursday, November 16th, I'll be at New York Comedy Club at 10:00. And December 11th, I will be at the Creek in the Cave doing a half hour with Maria Wojciechowski. That'll be for the whole week, December 11th through the 15th at 7:00. So come to that.
I'm there.
Thanks, girl. Wonder Women.
Oh, yeah.
I have, in a sense, I have 4. So these are all Puerto Rican women who they were mentioned in an article from Fierce Boss Ladies. I think the publication is just called Fierce.
Oh, okay. And then it was like a segment called
This
Fierce.
was like, I mean, the mayor of San Juan in Puerto Rico had tweeted out, like, just in sort of a response to say, like, when Trump was like, they just want everything done for them or whatever.
Yeah.
And like I saw like FEMA is getting ready to like wrap up and leave or whatever,
Jesus
which is
Christ.
just like such bullshit because 18% of the island still has power and that's it. Which means, I mean, like I feel like the better way to put that is 82% of the island
does not have power. Yeah.
And so there was this article about like women who are, I mean, it's bullshit. And like I think we all know it's bullshit. This thing of like they just want everything done for them. Like none of us actually believe that bullshit. But here are some women who are doing things for themselves and their neighbors and like trying to make things better. So Deanna Casanova, she makes coffee for her neighbors every morning using rainwater and cooks dinner for 7 different homes every night.
Wow.
She like talked about waiting in line for like 5 hours one night for a steak so that she can make beef soup for everybody. When she found out that an elderly lesbian couple in her neighborhood was diluting their medicine with contaminated water, she waited in line to buy a 12-pack of water for them, which cost $20, and said like she wouldn't have done this for herself, but she knew that they needed it.
Oh my
God. So she did
God.
that. And then there are these 3 young women named Sophia, Mariana, and Shakira who I think they're all in their 20s. Like, they look very young, but they're using machetes and their hands to cut down trees and branches and clear other debris that blocks traffic so that supplies can get through to more people.
Cool.
So just a shout out to them and a reminder that Puerto Rico
Needs help.
and in any other time would still be in the news.
Yeah.
I think like what is happening in Puerto Rico, I think, you know, like I'm not like ready, like eager to make this comparison. One, because I did not live in New Orleans during Katrina, but also because I think we talked about it last week, comparing suffering is not a wise thing to do.
It's tricky.
But since Donald Trump made that fucking comparison about how, like, when you look at the death toll, it's so much better than Katrina. If you actually look at the death toll, it is not better than Katrina. It's pretty equal to Katrina. Like hundreds of people have died there, and it's going underreported. And I think it's important to remember that, like, this shit is still happening.
Things are very bad there, and they need help.
And they're helping themselves, and I think it's important to think about that. Yeah. Also. So those are my Wonder Women.
Very
and
good.
Also Rachel Martin for that New York Times op-ed.
Yeah, and Marsha Belsky has a New York Times op-ed too today, which was also really good. Yeah, Lori Martin's so funny. We should go see her tonight. I am like such a like creepy stan of hers because I listen to her podcast. I feel like I know her, but I've never met her. But I just feel like a deep connection to her.
I didn't know how
so embarrassing.
To like, react or interact with her at all. So
oh my god, did you say hi?
No, I didn't.
Oh
know
my
what to
god,
do. I didn't want to fangirl.
I would fangirl out. That's a thing. I'm like,
so I just ignored
you're so cool.
her.
I think she's so cool.
And I was just like, oh my god, like you're like I used to listen to you growing up because you were on Bob and Tom, and that's how I got into comedy in the first place. Yeah. And I would like go to school with when my dad would drop me off for school, we'd listen to Bob and Tom, but then I didn't want to make her feel old by being like, I've listened to you since I was 13. And so I panicked and I said nothing.
I listened to you since I was your child's age.
Yeah, right.
Actually, I think her son's only like 10.
He's 10.
A creepy thing to know. There we go. Here we are. All right. Well, I think that's all. Thanks for listening. Review all the stuff and keep making history. There it is.